welcome in to Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on the program today, massive deals incoming for a couple of Houston Texans. I'll tell you about those deals and why you might see those happen sooner rather than later. And on the back half of today's show, the Texans making a lot of coaching staff moves, but I'm really skeptical about a couple of these moves, and I'll tell you why at the end of today's show. But first, let's start off with the good. You know, like if it's good news, bad news, I always want to start off with the good news. And the good news is that Sting wants to stay in Houston. He said in a recent interview, "I want to stay in Houston for the rest of my career." So go down and spam those 24s for Derek Stingley, our all-pro corner who absolutely shocked the world this season, was arguably the best corner in the NFL. If you want to see Stingley in Houston for the long run, if you want to see 24 locking up opposing wide receivers for a long time in H-Town, go down and spam those 24s because, like I said, Stingley is coming off his best season in the NFL, and he's able to get an extension this offseason. The question is, will the Texans make Derek Stingley the highest paid cornerback in the National Football League? His numbers definitely show that he deserves that kind of money in 2024. 54 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, a completion percentage against of 47.1, 18 pass breakups, 5 interceptions. He also had 2 more interceptions in the playoffs, and then a quarterback rating when targeted of 51.2. All elite numbers for Stingley. And as we're looking at the landscape of the NFL and cornerbacks and what they're getting paid, these are the top 10 paid corners in the NFL on a per-year basis. As you see at the top of that list, Pat Surtain and Jalen Ramsey both flirting with that $24 million a year number. Ramsey, of course, had to just one-up Surtain just a little bit with the 24.1. And shout out to my guy, Mr. Invisible Texan on Twitter, because I actually like this idea of a contract extension. If you're looking at keeping him here for the long haul, for the long term, 5-year deal, $125 million. That makes him the highest paid corner at $25 million a year. And I know that sounds like a lot right now, but the salary cap in the NFL just keeps on going up and up and up. So you have him reset the market at 25, and then the next corners that get extensions, they're going to surpass that Stingley number, and it'll look like a great deal in 2 to 3 years. So shout out to Mr. Invisible Texan. I really like this idea for a Stingley extension. But I'm going to ask you folks at home, will the Texans make Stingley the highest paid corner in the NFL? What do you think? Predict it down in the comments. Give me a yes. Give me a no. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, perfect timing. Scroll on down and let me know your thoughts. Will Stingley cash in and be the number 1 paid corner in the NFL? I surely think so. I think a deal gets done and Houston will lock up one of the cornerstone pieces for this franchise. You have C.J. Stroud, you have Will Anderson, you have Nico Collins, and then you have Derek Stingley Jr. I think that is your young core of guys that you keep together. You can also add Kamari Lassiter in that group as well. Kalen Bullock, 2 rookies who balled out this past season. That is your young core. That is your nucleus of young guys on this team that is going to propel you towards the future. And I really hope that Houston gets a long-term deal done with Stingley, because I think he is set to be a great corner in this league for years to come. He's only 23 years old. He's been balling out. He's been doing it since his days at LSU whenever he was going up against Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase on the daily. I believe in Stingley, and I think the Texans and him work out a deal this offseason. I have one more extension that I need to talk about, and then we're going to be talking about the Texans coaching staff and why it might be a little precarious on their decisions for some of these coaching hires. But first, before I break any of that down, got to show some love to the sponsor of today's program, and that is PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. And they are America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks makes it easy. All you got to do, pick more or less on at least 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all year long on PrizePicks. The big game is almost here, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season. PrizePicks is giving away a free pick for the big game. Patrick Mahomes will need to only throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win some real cash. So maybe you pair the Patrick Mahomes passing yards with the Saquon Barkley rushing yards. Their projections over at PrizePicks right now for the big game, 115.5 rushing yards. I'm going to put you on the spot, producer Justin. You going more or less on Saquon Barkley, 115.5 rushing yards? He said he's going with the less. You can use his pick or go against it, because I'm certainly going against it. I think he's going more than 115, right? Right? Hey, whatever your take is, though, go ahead and do it over on PrizePicks today. Download the app, use that code CLNS, and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, sign up today and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. So go ahead and download the app today and run your game over on PrizePicks. The other player that I think could be in line for an extension, and it's not one of the young guys, it is Danielle Hunter, who absolutely exploded onto the scene for the Texans this year. I mean, the Texans were expecting a lot out of Danielle Hunter, the, over 30-year-old pass rusher, a longtime Minnesota Viking, has been exceptional over the past 4 or 5 years. And I think he even exceeded the expectations of what Texans brass thought he could do this year. He signed a 2-year, $49 million contract last offseason. He has a $23.7 million cap hit this year. An extension could, in essence, keep him in Houston for a little bit longer and could lower that cap hit a little bit for this year to give the Texans a little bit more wiggle room to make some more moves to build this team going for next season. Now in 2024, Danielle Hunter, like I said, exceeded almost everybody's expectations that they had on him for the season. 46 tackles, 17 tackles for loss, 12 sacks, 3 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. And yeah, he's a little bit older, a little wear and tear. He still played 17 games, all 17 for the Texans this past year. I mean, excellent career year for Danielle Hunter. And this coming from ML Football. The projection for Danielle Hunter is a 2-year, $46 million contract. He has, obviously, like I said, 1 year left on his deal. The 30-year-old, 12 sacks this year, 5-time Pro Bowler, and has had double-digit sacks his past 3 seasons. And I don't think he's stopping anytime soon. I love the idea of keeping Danielle Hunter in Houston, the local Houston product, able to have like a little bit of a homecoming and just balling out for the Texans this past year. I really hope they're able to get this done, not only to keep Danielle in Houston and keep him with Will Anderson Jr., arguably, I think, in my opinion, the best pass rush duo from this past season. You also, like I said, are able to clear up a little bit of cap space to maybe go out and make a couple moves. Maybe sign some guys on the offensive side of the football because this defense is already at an elite level. The offense needs to catch up. Maybe you help out and maybe create a little bit more cap space so the Texans can wheel and deal. Nick Caserio can make some more moves this offseason. And speaking of Nick Caserio, we'll get to him in just a moment, but make sure you hit that sub button for any extension news, any news and rumors all year long, all season long, all year long. It doesn't matter. We're here for you 365 days a year during the offseason, going towards the NFL draft, free agency, trades, going into training camp, preseason, all the way during the regular season. We got you covered. We're your one-stop shop for Texans news and rumors. Almost to 27,000 subscribers. I want to get to around 30,000 by the time the NFL draft rolls around. Help me out. Go down and hit that sub button if you haven't already for free Texans news and rumors content all year long. Now, if you were subscribed, you probably would have seen I made a short yesterday. Cole Popovich was announced to be promoted to the O-line coach and run game coordinator. So he not only got the O-line coach job, he also got a little bit of an extra title as the run game coordinator. Obviously, as you know, if you've watched my shows the past couple weeks. He was the assistant offensive line coach last season. He has 13 years of coaching experience, 6 with the New England Patriots, and he didn't have much to say this past season as an assistant per multiple reports. They were just saying, kind of was being the good soldier under Strausser and wasn't really, making a lot of changes, was just doing his job as the assistant. Highly regarded. A lot of people speak well of Cole Popovich, but an intriguing move to say the least. And he was not the only coach that was retained from this staff last season on the offensive side of the football. We thought, new OC, maybe he brings in a lot of his own guys for position coaches. Well, the main 5 were all on the Texans staff last year. The O-line coach on the staff last year. Your QB coach, Jerrod Johnson, reportedly returning this next year. He was your QB coach last year. Jake Moreland, the tight end coach from last year, retained this year as the tight end coach. Danny Barrett, running back coach, and Ben McDaniels, who's the wide receiver coach and pass game coordinator, all reportedly retained per Aaron Wilson on this staff for this season. Now, Caley didn't keep every single person on the staff. He is bringing some new people in, but it is interesting to note that all of the key position groups are going to be keeping their same position coaches from last season. Now, the one move that did strike me as a little odd was this is the one move that I have seen the Texans make on the offensive coaching staff. Per Aaron Wilson, Texans expected to hire Rams senior offensive assistant Jerry Schuplinski, a former Tom Brady quarterbacks coach with Patriots like Nick Caley and Nick Caserio, and also a John Carroll University football alum. So there we see it, another signing for the Texans offensive staff, and just so happens it's another former Patriot, former John Carroll University grad with Nick Caserio. I would be lying to you if I said I wasn't a little bit nervous about the buddy hires because, I'm here at the Chat Sports studio. We're located in Dallas, Texas. I have to listen to Cowboys crap all the time. And the one thing that worries me a little bit about Jerry Jones and the Cowboys is they are a little bit too buddy, and it is kind of that, good old system where if you know somebody who knows somebody, you'll probably get the job. And that's what it's kind of seemed like this year for Caserio, right? Nick Caley, who has a ton of ties to Caserio. I think if it was up to Nick Caserio, might have been the OC from the jump because he was interviewed in 2023 in that same cycle that Bobby Slowick was. He gets the job as the OC, and now you're bringing in more former Patriot and John Carroll University grads. Not saying it's a bad thing. Not saying Jerry Schuplinski isn't a good coach because he has been around the league. He has a lot of skins on the wall, and a lot of people speak very highly of him. But in the same instance, it does worry you a little bit because it seems like he's bringing in a lot of former friends, and, it's hard to get better if everybody in the room is your friend, right? It's harder to, confront your friend or be real with your friend sometimes and say, hey, I don't think you're doing a good job of this and this and this. I think you need to change because of this. It's a lot easier whenever you're bringing more outside voices, more people who aren't, familiar with you to kind of give you some more constructive criticism. And that's the one thing that worries me a little bit is that we won't have that constructive criticism. Just like I said about Cole Popovich being the assistant O-line coach last year, and the reports were, he didn't really have a lot of say when it came to what the O-line did and the scheme fits and this and that. It's a little concerning, right? That guys on your staff aren't allowed to speak out or aren't allowed to make changes, and that kind of is just like a yes man mentality. Now, like I said, not all bad news. Jerry Schuplinski has a lot of people who speak very highly of him. One being Jimmy Garoppolo, former Patriots quarterback. This is what he had to say about his time with Schuplinski with New England. He said at the beginning, you're going into a system where a guy has been doing it for however many years. Tom has been doing it with Josh. So they are kind of speaking a different language initially. You're just trying to play catch up when you are in there. And Jerry was that kind of guy. He knows all this stuff, and he brings you up to speed. I probably wouldn't be where I am without him. Now, obviously, we know over the past couple of years, Jimmy Garoppolo has kind of descended in the NFL ranks among quarterbacks, but, he brought a team to the Super Bowl, right? Like, he's a former Super Bowl quarterback with San Francisco. So obviously he's done some good in his career, was a highly touted quarterback with his time in New England, played well there with the Patriots. So he comes with, a lot of good and a lot of bad with Schuplinski. And once again, he's just a senior offensive assistant as of right now. I don't think he has any other major title with the Texans offense. But another person that's coming in, he has a lot of experience, but also, is this an A plus, a slam dunk hire? I mean, no, I don't think so. If you look past at Schuplinski's career over his past 5 stops, I mean, nothing that screams wow to you. I mean, besides being the Rams senior assistant last year, which obviously the Rams offense with Sean McVay is pretty good. Before that, he was the Raiders tight end coach, where they didn't really do well. They drafted Michael Mayer, and he didn't really pan out as well as you would think a second-round pick would do over there in Las Vegas. Obviously, a lot of McDaniels ties right there, former New England coach as well. Before that, he was a quarterback coach with the New York Giants with Daniel Jones. I do have to admit, Daniel Jones did have maybe one of his best years under Schuplinski being the QB coach there, but also that Giants office wasn't anything to write home to mama about. 2019 QB coach for the Dolphins, where I believe he was coach for Ryan Fitzpatrick. That offense did well. I believe they were top 12 in yards and scoring and stuff that year. And then before that, he was a longtime assistant and QB assistant with the New England Patriots from 2013 to 2018. So comes with a lot of highs, comes with a lot of lows, but at the end of the day, just all the familiar hires. And I know, obviously, it's easier to hire people because obviously you have that rapport, you know more about them, and it's less of a risk hiring people that you already know about and that you already have a good grasp on what they do well, what they don't do well, and what they bring to the table. But at the same time, sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit. And I feel like with some of these hires, they're going a little bit on the safe side. I'm not saying Nick Caley was a super safe hire, the super, protected guy. He hasn't called plays before. He's somebody who is a young emerging coach, so there is risk in that. But at the same time, they're not hiring people that are outside their comfort level still. Nick Caserio is hiring guys who are former, worked with him formerly in New England. Went to John Carroll University. He has a lot of ties to these guys. He has a lot of, like I said, the buddy-buddy mentality, which can be good and can be bad at the same time. I mean, in New England, they had a lot of success there. Obviously, they won a ton of Super Bowls. So if he's trying to emulate that culture, maybe it's a good thing for the Texans. But I think Texans fans are a little bit burned from the past with Bill O'Brien and some other people with the New England Patriots and the Texans trying to be the Patriots of the South. It worries me just a little bit. But I'm keeping an open mind, and I really hope Nick Caley and this new/old offensive staff can really put it together this year and bring this Texans offense back to greatness and make sure that CJ Stroud has another elite year this next season.